I think the easiest thing is to understand how you build wealth, but the problem is behaviorally, it is the hardest thing. The simplest way to think about building wealth is that you can, do basically three or four things with it, right? You can live, you can spend, you can save, you can give this money. And generally, we know how to actually build wealth. You sort of save it, and then you find better ways to save that money. And it's really just save and invest, right? Just pooling up the money, and you have to do a portion of everything that you make goes away. So the general consensus is like, for me, for my family, we're probably more at 20% of everything that we make just gets saved away. Um, but for most people, it's 10 to 20%, whatever that is. Um, and I just think it's fascinating in how hard it actually is, right? The rational brain, it's quite easy to know how much and what to actually do, right? Like anybody can do this calculation, barring, um, maybe they don't have, grade 4 or 5 education, but then after that, um, it's really, and you don't even have to understand finances, you don't have to understand investing and all that kind of stuff. You just need to understand the basic principle that you just save and invest a portion of your money, whatever that portion is, but some given amount of, say, 10 to 20%, right? If you go more than that, this is the problem. If you go more than that, which I think some people like to go crazy and go ham, you're not living a great life for a while. And that's not fun either, right? And this is the sort of behavioral part of it, or thinking about the day to day, is that if it's too little, which is most people, then you're enjoying today so much. But if it's too much, you're really taking, and I think that I do generally think that there's people that save too much, and they're just too austere, and it's not fun. They're not really having a good life. They're working using sort of just a grinding effort. I do know of people that do that, right? And life is just more of a grind. And it's this happy medium, and that's why, having some portion or some ratio is actually a good amount of thinking what that might be. Um, so a fraction of everything that you make goes and disappears to investing for the long term or saving for the long term. And that act of doing it hurts. There's nothing fun with doing it. And it's pure pain up front. And this is the really fascinating thing that I find. Barring once you make a certain amount of money, then it's less relevant given culture, but it's still, an important thing, right? Like even if you are um, a multi-gazillionaire, saving means that you're not getting, your jumbo jet this year, kind of thing, right? Um, so you still feel it all the time, and it requires a concerted effort to not live at the maximum, at the envelope of what you can possibly live at. And to me, it's fascinating how hard it is to have a maximum, and we kind of have this arbitrary maximum in our minds. And yet we need to consistently live at that maximum rather than simply saying, you know what, eh, I'm okay, right? And whatever, and I don't think it's all sort of social comparison and all the sort of basic reasons that we think about. I think that genuinely it's that there's more to it. I think you are getting pleasure um, immediately. And so you get this kind of nice feeling if you're living at the maximum, rather than sort of thinking about how am I going to do this for the long term. And no, by doing that, I might get pleasure in 10 years or 20 years. It's, to me, I think what's interesting is the difference between what we know is right, or you know what, I mean, right is sort of arbitrary for everybody. What we know can lead to longer term longevity, and sort of sustainability in the long run. That's not great terms, but thinking about survival, right? Thinking about how you can live better, if not the same, or the same or better in the future, and the challenges it actually equates to, where it just inevitably is difficult. And it's, you know, there are people that research and look at this as sort of looking at long-term perspectives and how challenging it is to look at long-term perspectives. But I think that there is a whole host of things that are wrapped up in this, that is not just about, it's not just about the sort of pain of giving up. It's not just about social comparison and trying to live up to the Joneses. It's not just about our inability to see the future, but it's everything put together makes it particularly challenging to live. I wouldn't say an austere life, but to live a life that is balancing the trade-off for from today and giving up a little bit today for tomorrow. And I would love for people to understand like how mathematically easy it is to do this, but how challenging it is. And it requires you to make a concerted effort. It requires me to make a concerted effort almost always, of like, oh, I have to do this again. It's not fun. It's like going to the dentist, right? It's never fun, uh, but it pays dividends in the long run. So I want you to sort of change the way that you think about things. Think to see it how you can balance a more austere life, not necessarily like, that you're going to live in poverty, but think about how you can balance that for longevity. And the rest of it kind of takes care of itself if you are interested in learning about how to do this. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.